I gave husband $25,000 for house rent. 1 week later, he moved in with Mistress, then I did this. $25,000? You really thought that would buy you love? You're nothing but a fool with a wallet, and I've already found a real woman. His words sliced through her like a blade, each syllable mocking the trust she had poured into his hands. 1 week later, the money meant for their home became the bedrock of his new life with his mistress. Her sacrifice was laughed at. Her devotion spat on. Her dreams left bleeding in the shadows of his betrayal. She was left with nothing but empty pockets and a broken heart, the cruel proof that love, to him, had been nothing more than a transaction. But what he didn't know was that betrayal can be a spark, and what she did next would turn his laughter into the scream that echoed through his own downfall. This is the story of a woman mocked at her most selfless, and the shocking twist that rewrote everything. And today it is being retold by me. Hello family, welcome back. Before we begin, I have a small but heartfelt request. Please, subscribe. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Every time you click that button, you're helping us share voices that would otherwise be forgotten and stories that deserve to be heard. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, because together, we are not just telling stories, we are keeping hope alive. Rachel Morgan had been running on fumes for weeks. Her nursing shift had ended 2 hours ago, but she was still sitting in the break room, staring blankly at the locker in front of her. Around her, the fluorescent lights buzzed. Someone's half-eaten yogurt sat untouched on the table. Her phone buzzed again, 3rd time that hour, and she already knew who it was. Damien. "Babe, call me back. It's important." She sighed, rubbing her temples. She hadn't even had time to breathe lately, let alone deal with another Damien crisis. But something about his tone in the voicemail earlier had her stomach twisted. He sounded shaken, anxious, the kind of anxious that usually led to her fixing things. She finally called him back as she walked out into the parking lot, exhaustion dragging her steps. "Rachel, thank God. I didn't think you'd call back. I just got off a 14-hour shift, Damien," she replied, voice flat. "What's going on?" There was silence on the other end for a second. Then he let out a shaky breath. "I'm getting evicted. They're kicking me out at the end of the week. I didn't see it coming. I thought the client payment would hit by now, but the deal fell through and... Look, I know this is the last thing you need, but I need help. Fast." Rachel stopped walking. Her heart started racing, but not from fear, from that old familiar panic. Damien always seemed to be on the edge of something, a layoff, a missed deal, an almost closed opportunity that just disappeared. And she was always the one left to catch him. "How much?" His voice got quiet. $25,000. That's what they want up front for the new lease. It's a nicer place and the landlord won't budge on the deposit and first few months. It's all or nothing. 25,000, Rachel said, stunned. "Damien, Are you serious right now?" "It's not just for me," he said quickly. "It's for us. This place has 2 bedrooms, a yard. We wouldn't have to keep living apart like this. We could finally be under the same roof again. Weekends are killing me." Rachel leaned against her car and closed her eyes. Living apart had been her idea. Not because she didn't love him, but because she had no choice. Her hospital job paid decently, but not enough to commute across the city every day. Renting that tiny studio close to the hospital was how she saved money. Money she'd been putting aside for them. "You know I don't like asking my parents," Damien continued, voice dipping low. "They already talk down on you." "I'm not giving them the satisfaction." Rachel flinched. She'd heard the whispers before. "She's just a nurse," his mother had once said. "I thought he'd marry someone from a better background." Damien always told her to ignore it, that they didn't know what they were talking about. But still, it stayed with her. I don't have $25,000 just sitting around, she said, her voice small. You do, he said. Your savings. Her heart dropped. That's for emergencies. This is an emergency, he said. Look, I know it's a lot, but think of it as a down payment on our future. I swear to God, once I'm back on my feet, I'll pay you back. With interest, we'll finally be together full time. Isn't that what we both want? Rachel stood in silence for a long time. She could hear his breathing. She knew this version of him, scared, desperate, hopeful. She'd fallen in love with it once. This is the beginning of us, Rach, he said softly. I just need you to believe in me one more time. And just like that, she caved. The next morning, she transferred every dollar she had saved over the last 4 years. Side shifts, missed vacations, takeout skipped, nights studying instead of sleeping, all of it, gone in a few taps on her phone screen. She called Damien that evening. It's done, she said. You've got the money. He laughed, the kind of laugh she hadn't heard in months. God, I knew I could count on you. You're amazing, Rachel. I mean it. Just keep me posted, okay? And send me the new address when you sign the lease. Of course, I'll make it up to you. This is our restart, baby. For the next 5 days, Rachel waited for updates that never came. Texts went unanswered. Calls went straight to voicemail. His social media was quiet. Even Instagram stories stopped. When she finally got him on the phone, he sounded rushed. Sorry, babe, it's chaos over here. Movers are late, Wi-Fi's not working, my boss dumped extra work on me. I'm barely surviving. Can I come visit this weekend? Rachel asked. There was a pause. Let's aim for next weekend, okay? I want everything perfect when you see it. She tried to ignore the doubt in her gut. Maybe he really was stressed. Maybe he wanted to surprise her. But something didn't sit right. The next morning, she walked into a small boutique near her job and bought a white ceramic vase. Simple, elegant, the kind you put in a home you plan to share. She picked up fresh lilies and a card. For our new beginning, she wrote in neat, hopeful handwriting. Then she called an Uber. She was going to see that house, surprise or not. The Uber ride was quiet. Rachel sat in the back seat, clutching the small white vase and lilies on her lap, like they were made of glass. She had checked the address Damien texted her 3 times before entering it into the app. She had never been to this side of town. It was newer, richer, neater. The houses looked like they came out of magazines. Trimmed hedges, matching shutters, fresh paint. Everything felt out of place, too perfect. Just like Damien always wanted. She could already picture it. Him opening the door, surprised, smiling. Her handing him the flowers. Maybe they'd laugh about how impatient she was. Maybe he'd kiss her and say, "This is home now." For both of us, she wanted that moment so badly it hurt. But her heart hadn't stopped racing since she stepped into the car. When the driver pulled up in front of the house, she hesitated. There it was, number 17, Lakeview Drive. A 2-story townhouse with a stone path and a small porch. Curtains drawn. A silver SUV parked neatly in the driveway. The kind of place that looked like someone's dream. Rachel paid the driver, stepped out slowly and stood on the sidewalk for a moment. The air felt too still. She reached into her bag, pulled out the card she had written, and tucked it between the flowers. For our new beginning. She walked up the steps, raised her hand to knock, and stopped. Through the window she saw movement. Someone was lighting candles on the dining table. There were wine glasses, 2 plates, and a bottle of red breathing on the side. Damien was standing there, dressed in a button-down and slacks, smiling at someone just out of view. Rachel's heart flipped. Was he expecting her? Then the other person walked into view. A woman, slender, barefoot, wearing one of Damien's old t-shirts. She walked up behind him and wrapped her arms around his waist. He leaned into her, turned around, and kissed her, slow and deep. He brushed her hair back and said something that made her laugh. Rachel stood frozen on the porch. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't blink. The world tilted. Number. No, 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 no. The woman turned slightly toward the window. It was Jenna, Rachel's sister. Her hand shook. The vase slipped slightly in her grip. She took 2 steps backward, tripped on the bottom step, and had to catch herself. She couldn't look away. She didn't want to believe it. But it was her. Jenna's hair. Jenna's laugh. Jenna's silver ankle bracelet that their mum gave her last Christmas. Rachel stumbled down the walkway and dropped the vase. It shattered against the concrete. Lilies scattered. The card fluttered once, then landed face up. For our new beginning. She stared at it like it was a joke someone played on her. Tears blurred her vision, but she didn't cry. Not yet. Her brain was still trying to make sense of what her eyes had seen. Jenna, her own blood, and Damien, smiling, relaxed, like he hadn't just taken every piece of Rachel's heart and crushed it under his feet. She backed away from the house, her mouth dry, her hands trembling. Her chest was tight, not just from heartbreak, but from rage, from shame, from something so deep it didn't have a name yet. They were in her house, the one she paid for, with her life savings, and they were setting the table like it was their honeymoon. He didn't just cheat, he built a new life, with my own sister, using the money I gave him out of love. She turned and walked away. No, not walked. She ran. She didn't stop until she was halfway down the block, barefoot now. Her heels had broken somewhere along the sidewalk. And even then, the tears didn't fall. Because the shock hadn't worn off. Because somewhere inside her, something was beginning to burn. And this time, it wasn't love. It was something darker. Rachel didn't remember how she got home that night. She sat on the edge of her bed, still in the clothes she wore to Damien's house. Her shoes were gone. Her hands were shaking, her lips dry. Her phone kept buzzing on the nightstand, but she didn't touch it. Jenna, her own sister. It kept repeating in her head like a broken record. Not just a betrayal, a destruction, a ripping apart of everything she thought she knew. Her marriage, her blood, her identity. She had been funding their love nest. Her legs gave out beneath her when the thought hit, and she collapsed to the floor. The next morning, she didn't go to work. She didn't call in. She didn't check her phone. She just stared at the ceiling, replaying every red flag she had ever ignored. Every weekend, Damien cancelled last minute. Every time Jenna changed the subject, every vague excuse, every fake smile. Around noon, her stomach growled, but she didn't move. The doorbell rang. She opened it in a daze. Damien was standing there, hands in his pockets, looking casual, like nothing had happened. "We need to talk," he said. She said nothing, just stepped aside. He walked in, looked around like he hadn't ghosted her for over a week. "You saw the house, huh?" Rachel swallowed. "Yeah, I saw it." Damien nodded, rubbing the back of his neck. "Look, I won't lie. You weren't supposed to find out like that." "Like what?" she snapped. "That my husband and my sister are sleeping together in the house I paid for." He turned to face her fully now, eyes cold. "That $25,000, that was your way out. I just sped up the process." Rachel's heart stopped. "What?" "You're not wife material, Rachel. You're convenient. You're practical, reliable. But you don't get me." You never did. Tears welled in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "I gave you everything." "Exactly," he said, almost amused, "and you still weren't enough." That's when Jenna walked in. Rachel staggered back. Jenna was wearing the same shirt from the night before, Damien's shirt. Her hair was tied up like she owned the place. "Wow," Jenna said, smirking. "Didn't think you'd still be crying over this." Rachel's mouth fell open. "How long?" Jenna shrugged. Few months. Maybe longer. Honestly, you were always too busy playing nurse and pretending you had a real marriage. Rachel's hands trembled. You're my sister. Half-sister, Jenna corrected. I'm barely that. Damien put his arm around Jenna's waist. She's not just sex, Rachel. She's partnership. She understands where I come from, where I'm going. Rachel's knees buckled, but she caught herself on the wall. Get out, she whispered. Get out of my apartment. Now Damien leaned in close, his voice low and smug. It's not your apartment anymore. Check your mailbox. Then he and Jenna walked out, laughing. Rachel ran to the mailbox, her hands shaking. Inside was a final eviction notice. 2 weeks behind on rent. No grace period left. She dropped the letter. It floated to the ground like ash. Her legs gave out again. That night, she sat on her bare mattress, surrounded by packed boxes she never got to unpack. She had worked double shifts to keep this place, cut back on everything. Now it was gone, like everything else. She picked up her phone. There were 5 missed calls from the hospital. She called back, barely holding herself together. I need time off, she stammered. Just a few days. I'm going through. The voice on the other end cut her off. Rachel, can you come in tomorrow morning? It's important. The next day, Rachel sat stiffly across from HR. The director looked at her with forced kindness. Rachel, we've reviewed your recent behavior. Multiple absences, a serious charting error on Monday. You almost gave a diabetic patient insulin they didn't need. Rachel's mouth dropped. What? I didn't mean to. We understand you're under stress, the director said gently. But patient safety has to come first. No, please, I just need time. I can fix this. I'm sorry, Rachel, the director said quietly. We have to let you go. Rachel left the hospital with a brown envelope in her hands and a hollow ache in her chest. She had no job, no savings, no home, no husband, no sister, and now, no dignity. Everything she had built had been stripped away in less than 2 weeks. The hallway outside HR was cold and quiet. She didn't cry, she couldn't. It was like her body had locked the pain inside, afraid that if even a single tear escaped, the dam would burst. She walked outside into the heat. Her car was still parked in the hospital lot. She slid behind the wheel, closed the door, and sat there for nearly an hour, staring at nothing. Later that night, Rachel logged into her old Facebook account. She hadn't touched it in months. She just needed something familiar, some piece of the world before everything had fallen apart. That's when she saw it. A post from Jenna. A photo of her and Damien standing in front of the luxury townhouse. Arms around each other, beaming. Caption: When you know, you know. We're building everything from scratch. Together #power couple. Rachel felt like she had been kicked in the chest. She clicked Jenna's profile. There were more photos. Jenna in the kitchen Rachel paid for. Damien lounging shirtless by the patio. Hashtags like #realestatелove and #finallyhome littered every post. But the worst part? The comments. Cousins liking the photos. An aunt writing, "You two look amazing. So happy you found each other." Even her mother had left a heart emoji. Rachel's stomach twisted. Her vision blurred. She tried to breathe, but it came out in gasps. Her own family was choosing them. Not a single call, not a single message. No one had even asked if she was okay. They had turned her pain into a love story. A few nights later, Rachel returned to her apartment for the last time. Her landlord had already locked the door and left her box of belongings outside in a plastic bin. Inside it, a photo frame with her and Damien smiling on their wedding day. A coffee mug that said, "Nurse Life." Her spare scrubs, still neatly folded. She carried the box down to her car in silence. She had nowhere to go. She couldn't crash at a friend's. She didn't have the strength to explain the whole story again. Not when they'd already seen it all on Instagram. So she slept in her car. She parked in a quiet neighborhood behind a gas station, locked the doors, pulled a blanket over herself, and stared at the ceiling. One night turned into two. Two turned into four. On the fifth day, she woke up to a call from an unknown number. "Is this Rachel Morgan?" "Yes," she said, groggy. "This is Dan White from Clearstone Leasing Group. We need to verify some financial information with you. You're listed as a co-signer on the Lakeview property, Unit 17. Rachel sat straight up. "What?" "Your name is on the lease. We received documents indicating joint income between you and Mr. Damian Carter. We're processing some refinancing paperwork and just needed to confirm your consent before we finalize." Wait, no. "I didn't sign anything. I haven't agreed to anything." A pause. "The file contains your digital signature and income records, ma'am." Her breath caught in her throat. Damian had forged her name. He used her tax info, her job details, her ID copies from their shared files, to make it look like she co-signed the lease for him and Jenna. And now? She was legally tied to the house they shared. If they defaulted, she would be on the hook. If the payments stopped, her credit would tank. Rachel's hands trembled so badly she dropped her phone onto the center console. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was theft. It was fraud. It was war. That night, she scrolled again. Her heart numb. Her spirit hanging on by a thread. And that's when she saw it. A video clip, shared by a mutual friend. The background was familiar. Lakeview Drive. Jenna and Damian stood in front of the townhouse again, this time with matching champagne glasses. A crowd clapped around them. "We wanted you all here," Jenna said, smiling, "because this isn't just our new home." Damian grinned and pulled a box from his pocket. "It's our new beginning." He dropped to one knee. The crowd cheered. Rachel watched in silence as her husband, slid a ring onto Jenna's finger. And behind them, clear as day, stood the front door Rachel had once walked up to, holding flowers, carrying hope. The caption read, "She was never the one. This is the real story. Just engaged." Rachel stopped counting the days she'd been sleeping on the edge of someone else's life. She had been crashing on her co-worker Maya's couch for a week. Maya had offered the guest room, but Rachel refused. She didn't want to take up space. Not anymore. She took quick showers, folded her blanket every morning, spoke only when spoken to. She felt like a ghost wearing someone else's skin. Most nights she lay there staring at the ceiling, headphones in, replaying every moment like it was a crime scene. It wasn't just betrayal, it was fraud, it was identity theft, it was war. But she wasn't going to rush into a fight she wasn't ready for. She'd done that before. Walked into that house with hope and flowers. Never again. During the day, Rachel sold what little she had. Her wedding ring. Gone. A bracelet her father gave her before he died. Pawned. 2 designer handbags, barely used. Sold online for half their value. Every dollar went into a secret savings stash. Not to survive, but to strike. She stopped crying. She stopped talking. She started watching. Every post Damian and Jenna shared, she screenshotted. Every caption, every location tag, every comment from family and friends. She was building a timeline, gathering receipts, quietly becoming dangerous. People underestimated a woman who was silent. But silence was focus. She even started a spreadsheet. Evidence, fraud, leverage. Because if they were going to burn her life to the ground, they better be ready when she walked through the ashes holding the match. One afternoon, Maya came home to find Rachel sitting at the kitchen counter with a laptop she borrowed from the hospital IT closet. "You eat today?" Maya asked gently. Rachel nodded. "I'm okay." Maya didn't push, but before walking off, she said, "You're still allowed to fall apart, you know." Rachel looked up. "I'm not falling apart," she said. "I'm collecting pieces." That night, something shifted. Rachel went to the corner store to get canned soup. At checkout, the cashier stared at her. "You're the nurse from Midtown, right?" he asked. Took care of my dad last year. Said you were the only one who treated him like he mattered. Rachel blinked. I think I remember him. You saved his life, the man said. He talks about you all the time. Rachel smiled politely, but inside she was unraveling. When she got back to the apartment, Maya handed her a note. This was dropped off while you were out, she said. It was on lawyer letterhead. Handwritten at the bottom, I believe I can help. Langston. Rachel met Mr. Langston the next morning at a modest office above a bakery downtown. He was tall, warm-eyed, in his early 60s. He poured her tea before anything else. I hear you've been through hell, he said, but I also hear you're sharper than most people realize. Rachel stayed quiet. He opened a folder. I had my assistant pull the lease on the Lakeview property, he said. You're listed as co-signer, but here's the thing. The signature doesn't match your old mortgage application. The income records? Forged. Her throat tightened. So, what does that mean? It means, he said slowly, you have a case. A strong one. He laid out the options. Civil lawsuit for fraud and forgery. Criminal complaint for identity misuse. Potential to freeze the property with heirless pendants. He looked up. If you want to hit them where it hurts, Rachel, we can. But you need to know. It takes time, patience, and you'll have to pretend you're okay. She sipped the tea and nodded. I've been pretending for years. That night, she launched her first move. She went to her old college Facebook albums and downloaded a few pictures. Her and Marcus, her ex-boyfriend from sophomore year. A good guy. Now a successful finance bro in New York, still single. She posted one of the photos on her private account with a simple caption. Some people know your worth the first time. Nothing more. But it was enough. Within 2 hours, she got a message from a fake account. She knew who it was. Damien. Cute pic. Funny how you're always trying to look important after being replaced. Rachel smirked, locked her phone, and went to sleep. Let him wonder. Let him spiral. Over the next few days, Rachel played the game beautifully. She posted photos of brunches she wasn't at, old vacation pics with new captions, smile emojis, confident quotes. She even texted Damien once just for the chaos. Rachel, just wanted to say thank you. You showed me what I don't want, and that's a gift. He didn't respond, but Jenna did. From a blocked number. Stay away from our lives. You're pathetic. Rachel stared at the message, then laughed for the first time in weeks. They were cracking. Good. A week later, she got the call from Langston. We've filed the heirless pendants. The property's frozen. No refinancing, no sale. They're locked in? Rachel didn't say anything for a second. Then she whispered, thank you. Langston added, word is they're throwing an engagement party. Flashy one. Investors, influencers, even some of your old friends are invited. Jenna's using it to launch a women in property brand. Rachel's eyes narrowed. When? This Saturday. Rachel found the invitation on Jenna's Instagram, front and center. Engagement and launch party, Saturday, 7 p.m., Lakeview Drive. Private event. The guest list was full of names Rachel hadn't seen since high school. Even her old manager from the hospital had RSVP'd. They were turning Rachel's stolen life into a showroom. A public parade of stolen success. They wanted applause, but what they were going to get was wreckage. She closed the app, opened her email, and typed 3 words to Mr. Langston. I'll be there. Rachel didn't dress for revenge. She dressed like she belonged. Sleek black dress, hair pinned neatly, a soft gold bracelet, borrowed from Maya, calm, understated, intentional. She arrived at the Lakeview property, the very house her name still legally touched, and walked through the gates like she wasn't about to detonate the entire evening. The house was glowing, candles in glass jars, champagne towers, laughter echoed from the patio. Jenna's voice rang out loudest. Rachel moved through the crowd, unbothered. She smiled at people who hadn't spoken to her in months. Some whispered, others stared. No one said a thing, until she stepped inside and saw them. Jenna, in a champagne-colored gown, dripping in confidence. Damien at her side, smug, suit, tailored, hand on her lower back like they were royalty. Rachel's stomach flipped, but she kept walking. "Rachel," Damien said, stunned. "What the hell are you doing here?" Jenna's smile dropped. "You weren't invited," Rachel smiled. "Actually, I was. You sent out a public invite. I just RSVP'd late." Damien moved toward her. "This isn't your scene anymore." Rachel tilted her head. "It is, actually. Since my name's still on the lease." Gasps rippled around them. Jenna stepped forward. "You need to leave. You're obsessed. This is embarrassing." Rachel pulled a white envelope from her purse and held it up. "Actually, what's embarrassing is building your empire on fraud." She handed the envelope to Damien. "Consider this notice. The house is frozen under lis pendens. You can't refinance it. You can't sell it. And since you used my identity to get it," she turned to Jenna, "you're both looking at charges, forgery, fraud, maybe even theft." The crowd was dead silent. Jenna's face paled. Damien opened the envelope. Legal documents. Stamped. Signed. Rachel stepped back. "I'm not here to fight. I'm here to watch the fall." She left them standing in the ruins of their party, phones buzzing, faces stunned, reputation bleeding out in real time. By the time she reached the sidewalk, Rachel exhaled for the first time in months. No tears, no anger, just peace. This was her closure, and their beginning of the end. "First," she said calmly, "you should all know this engagement is built on a fraud. That man," she said, gesturing to Damien, "used my identity, my income, and my forged signature to secure the very home you're standing in." Murmurs erupted. "Second," she continued, "the woman you're celebrating?" Rachel looked straight at Jenna. "She's under investigation by the State Real Estate Board for unethical practices and false documentation. Her license has been flagged and may be revoked." Jenna gasped. "You're lying!" Rachel ignored her. "Third, Damien's employer has been notified of the pending criminal charges, identity theft, real estate fraud, and financial manipulation. HR has already launched their own internal review." The crowd was dead silent. Rachel turned to face everyone. "This house, this party, this empire they brag about, it was paid for with my savings, my sacrifice, my trust, and it's all about to collapse." She handed the envelope to Damien, who took it with shaking hands. Rachel turned back to the guests. "I won't be staying long. I just thought everyone deserved to know what this legacy really stands on." She raised her glass. "To lies, theft, and karma." Then she downed the champagne, turned and walked out. Silent, steady, powerful. The fallout was instant. By the next morning, the party was all over social media. But not for the reasons Jenna had hoped. A guest had recorded the entire speech and posted it with the caption, "Wife crashes engagement party with receipts. Sis was the side chick. This is wild." It went viral overnight. By noon, Rachel Morgan was trending. TikTok exploded with commentary videos. "Y'all. I have never seen revenge served so cold. She walked in like an attorney, dragged them with facts, then left like Beyoncé. Imagine cheating on your wife with her sister and then losing everything, in front of 80 people." The scandal became tabloid gold. Real estate rogue, sisterhood destroyed by $25,000 betrayal. From wife to warrior, Rachel Morgan breaks her silence. Jenna's broker suspended her license within 48 hours. Her real estate agency posted a bland statement. "We do not condone fraudulent behavior or unethical partnerships." The agent involved has been placed on indefinite leave. Her influencer deals dried up. Sponsors pulled out. The online hate flooded in, and Jenna tried to delete comments, but they kept multiplying. Screenshots of her smug captions were now meme material. Damien didn't fare better. His company placed him on unpaid leave, pending internal legal review. By the end of the week, they officially let him go. Friends vanished. Family stopped answering calls. They were radioactive. 1 minute they were power couple goals. The next, they were cautionary tales. Rachel, on the other hand, kept quiet. She didn't gloat. She didn't explain. She let the world do the talking, while she handled her business in silence. She accepted a podcast invite under an alias, just her voice, sharing her story with raw honesty. I gave everything I had to people who smiled while they planned my downfall. But betrayal doesn't break you. It reveals you. I thought I was weak. But I just hadn't met my fight yet. The episode hit 1 million plays in 3 days. A week later, a publishing agent reached out. Your story has power. If you're ready to tell it, the world is ready to hear it. Rachel signed the deal quietly. No press tour, no social media posts, just the check. And then came the final piece, the settlement. With Mr. Langston's help, Rachel filed both civil and criminal suits. Damien tried to fight it, but the evidence was too stacked. Screenshots, forged forms, voice memos, lease contracts, bank transfers. He had left a trail of deceit 1 mile long. Faced with the mounting case, he settled quickly. The payout was more than Rachel expected. Enough to do something she hadn't let herself imagine in months. But Rachel didn't just take the money and disappear. She rebuilt. One morning, she walked into an interview at one of the top private hospitals in the state, a place that had once rejected her 5 years ago. This time her story had already reached them. They didn't ask about her termination at the last hospital. They asked how soon she could start. 2 weeks later, Rachel stood in her new scrubs, in a glass-walled nurses' station, overlooking a sunlit trauma floor. She wasn't just back on her feet. She was on higher ground. A month later, Rachel walked through the door of her new home. It was quiet, cozy, right on the edge of a beach town she used to visit as a child. The house wasn't flashy, but it was hers. Paid for outright. No shared lease. No hidden names. No one else's fingerprints. Just Rachel, free, whole, and finally, ahead. She walked out onto the small balcony and let the sea breeze hit her face. Hair blowing softly, heart still. The phone buzzed on the patio chair. A notification from a news alert. Ex-real estate agent Jenna Morgan evicted after viral fraud scandal. Rachel opened the link. There it was. A photo of Jenna and Damien standing outside the Lakeview house, arguing with movers, boxes scattered, furniture on the lawn, the just engaged sign broken on the curb. The article said the mortgage was pulled, lease cancelled, and they had 30 days to vacate. Rachel smiled faintly. She didn't need to show up. She didn't need to say a word. The house was already speaking for her. She drove past the Lakeview property one last time that afternoon. Windows down, wind in her hair. As she passed, she saw them. Damien sitting on the steps with his head in his hands, Jenna pacing angrily with her phone to her ear. No more smugness, no more matching outfits, no more curated captions, just reality. Rachel didn't stop. She didn't wave. She just smiled, the soft, quiet smile of a woman who didn't just survive. She rewrote the ending. He thought she was a woman he could use, discard, and forget. But she was the storm, and everything he built on her back came crashing down at her feet.